Before we talk about how the coronavirus could potentially impact the NFL and the NFL draft, I just wanted to take a moment to plug the cdc.gov website, where you can go and get a whole bunch of information on how to try and remain healthy, how to not spread it to others, locations for if you need to go get tested for it, just for kind of just public consumption. I wanted to also take a moment and talk about the virus itself. Obviously, there's a lot of anxiety currently, and it's ranging from full-blown panic to go and fight in the Thunderdome for toilet paper, and then it ranges from this is just the common cold/flu and everybody is overreacting. And for a hot second, I just kind of wanted to condemn both sides, because the panic is, one, I would argue not necessary, but two, also very unhelpful and counterproductive, because it just makes people lose common sense. And, this isn't something to completely lose your mind over. However, at the same time, I also want to condemn those who are downplaying or belittling this and saying that, it's just the flu, or, the flu kills so many people per year, or things like that. Because I think it undermines the efforts of what people like the CDC are doing or medical workers are doing, and it is something that should be taken seriously. The WHO obviously coming out, and this was early March, saying that 3.4% of people who get it or are diagnosed with it are going to die. And now, speaking to the young people who I know make up a large chunk of my audience, for you guys and gals, this is most likely not going to be a problem. You might get a little bit sick, but you're probably going to get over it, and you're going to be just fine if you have no underlying health issues. However, the people that it will impact are those people with those underlying health problems, those pre-existing conditions, and the elderly. And speaking as someone who has an underlying health issue, I grew up with asthma my entire life. My lungs are not great. This could negatively impact me, and I'm not even 30 years old. And you talk about the elderly, and, I have one remaining grandparent left, and, I worry about my parents and other family members that I have. And for those people, this is very, very serious. And so I understand if you personally are not worried, and that's great. If you are going to not be impacted by this at all, that's wonderful. Kudos to you. However, there are going to be thousands, if not millions, of people who are going to be impacted by this. And so I do ask you to take it a bit more seriously. And I'm not saying stop the memes, because the memes are wonderful. People are sending me things like the Lions should just give up on their season. And not because of coronavirus, just because they're Lions. That's wonderful. However, I don't appreciate the disinformation and the belittling and the over-exaggeration. Listen to the health professionals. They know what they're talking about. Take the right precautions and stay safe. And hopefully we'll make it through. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packast, the podcast where you're not a Packers fan, but sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi. So let's take a look a little bit of, it seems at this point, a little bit more of a trivial note, and talk about how the coronavirus could impact the NFL draft and the NFL season as a whole. So as of recording this, a little past 5:30 on the East Coast, we have already had a ton of cancellations in the world of sports. Obviously, the NBA canceling last night as there was a player who was diagnosed with it. And then this morning, there was also another player that was diagnosed with it in the NBA. The NHL has suspended their season. The MLB has canceled all their spring training and has pushed back the start of the season for a minimum of 2 weeks. March Madness is also canceled. The NFL has canceled their annual meeting. MLS has canceled. There's a lot of cancellations going on. Obviously, in New York, they're really cracking down on the amount of people that can gather in one space. This is affecting Broadway, concerts, etc. And the containment zone, which is in New Rochelle, New York, is literally where I used to work. And right now, it's down the block from where I used to work. I'm less than 2 miles away from the containment zone, and we are still going to work. And I mean, it's pretty terrifying because you look at it, just kind of really, it disrupts the status quo, and it it's there's a lot of anxiety in the air right now. But when it comes to sports, I wanted to take a look at how this could potentially impact the NFL and beyond, really, because obviously the NFL season is not going to begin until August, when we're talking about actual preseason games. And then we have training camp before that, and then we have September at the actual games. But as of right now, the NFL draft is still happening. That is what the NFL has said, and they said that there's not going to be a change to the start date this season. And we still have over a month, because the NFL draft is April 23rd to April 25th. Now, Frank Supovitz is the NFL's former head of events, said that they're most likely just going to do it without fans. And I think that this is probably going to be the best precaution they can probably take, considering, health professionals are saying that this is going to get worse before it gets better. There were 600,000 people there in Nashville last year, and Nevada, where it's being held, already has 7 confirmed cases. And so I would not be surprised if there's just like some streaming aspect to it. Just do it like the good old days and just video conferences, in which just everyone is just like, yay, cheer, yay, I'm Roger Goodell. But somehow, even though there's no one else in the room, he'll get booed. Now, as of right now, things that are already being impacted, you have teams that are pulling their scouts off the road for their fear of their personal health and safety. So the problem here is that we don't know how long this is going to last, right? There are hopes that it will be like the flu and it will be seasonal and it will be gone in a couple months, but there's also no evidence that points to that. You can go to the CDC website and check that out for yourself. And right now, looking at how it's already impacting all the other major sports, I would not be surprised if this winds up impacting the start of the NFL season. You even have, for example, guys who need to get physicals. The teams don't want to bring them in because they don't want to load them up on commercial airplanes. And I think that it's better to have an abundance of caution, because, listen, hopefully in like a month from now, we were like, wow, remember when we got all worked up about that? That was crazy, which I don't think is going to be the case. But if that is the case, then great. Then we took the precautions that we needed to make sure that this didn't spread even further. But, it really kind of puts it into perspective that you start to see sports go, and I feel like that's such a foundation of our country and the world that we live in, that when sports start going away, you're like, this is weird and this shouldn't be happening. So all that being said, I would not be surprised if the NFL actual regular season, or at least the preseason, is going to be impacted by this. But the truth of the matter is that we don't know. And that scares people. It scares the stock markets to going into recession. Obviously, like, there's oil issues as well. But, there's a lot of factors that play into this. And that's why I implore you to listen to medical professionals, because they know what they're talking about. For a lot of people, they're scared. And some people, they're being scared because there's a lot of fear-mongering going on, or there's sensationalism going on. And then there's some people that are just scared because they have family members who are elderly or have previous medical conditions. And I think it's important to remember that we are all people, and we want to live safe, happy, normal lives. And that's something that, regardless of your political affiliation, religion, what have you, that's pretty much what you want. And, I think that this is a time where, I'm not even saying get unified behind a political party or anything like that. I'm saying just be kind to one another, because before this is all over, you're most likely going to know somebody who is impacted by this. I'm just saying, have some sympathy or some empathy for some people. But keep the memes up, because if we're going to go through an apocalypse, I'd like to be laughing at the lions while I go down. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy on all social media. See down below. Check out Packast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout out and thank you to all the Patreon members over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. But thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, folks. Stay healthy. And see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack, go.